Well, everyone, it's almost time for the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2. It's coming out later this week on June the 5th. Hopefully, you guys have your pre-orders in. I personally have a pre-order in at Walmart, and I will tell you, I am not confident that I'm going to get one on launch day. I had the issue where my card was, denied for fraudulent activity. I think a lot of people have been going through that. I was able to correct it. Hopefully, they'll charge it on the second time round, and it will go through, but we'll definitely have to wait and see what happens. Hey, if I don't end up getting one on Friday, I'm probably going to have to be driving around to various stores to see if I can pick one up. But that's my problem, not yours. I'm not here to whine or complain about any of that stuff. I'm just here to basically just talk to you guys about what to expect with the Nintendo Switch 2, what I'm going to be doing with the system later on this week, and basically just talk about the launch, leading up to the launch of the hardware. This is one of the most interesting and weirdest launches that I've ever seen. I think Nintendo has made some really interesting decisions leading up to the launch of the hardware that I think ultimately they're trying to protect themselves and protect the system from leaks itself, which is not a bad thing, but it's also kind of at the detriment of the average consumer, because this is really going to be the very first time where we're going to be seeing a lot of content creators get access to the hardware and put video reviews out and talk about the system before we actually see, outlets, traditional outlets, making their reviews. So why is this a big deal? And as a YouTuber, why wouldn't I be kind of championing for a level playing field? Well, look, as a YouTuber, I would love to get first-hand access on a product before everyone else. Of course I would, because hey, if I get all the engagement, that means I get more people on my channel, more subscribers, more views, all that kind of stuff. In my opinion, you can't really replace that 2 weeks or so of access to a product people have had hands-on with. They've been able to test many of the launch games, put them through its paces, seen all the good and the bad regarding those games, and come up with a concise and unbiased review of the product and the games around it. Unfortunately, because we're going to be very hyped and excited on day 1, day 2, day 3, the first week. We're going to be seeing a lot of skewed reviews and kind of impressions and thoughts about these games, ranging from it's the best game ever, the game of the generation, to it's the absolute worst. And look, somewhere in the middle would probably lie where the truth is. I'd hate to say it, but it feels like there's a slight hint of arrogant Nintendo creeping in, because pre-orders of the hardware have sold out everywhere in North America. It means that there's no real reason, at least on paper, for reviews, but I don't think that is necessarily accurate. I also have issues with various other aspects of the Switch 2 launch. Of course, there is the price of Mario Kart World, very well documented. I personally don't think $80 is worth the price of admission. Most people are probably opting for the $50 bundle, which is a very smart move. I also don't like the fact that something like Welcome Tour is not a pack-in game. It's a $10 charge. There's also issues around things like game chat, backward compatibility, all these features that will be available on day 1, but we've really had no visibility to see what they actually look like, other than some very, very well curated displayed information. We've seen Cyberpunk on the Switch 2, we've seen frame rate analysis, we've seen comparisons with other platforms, and look, the game looks fantastic on the Nintendo Switch 2, but we don't know what the Phantom Liberty expansion looks like because we haven't seen it yet. The other thing Nintendo is doing, obviously, is putting resolution and frame rate updates behind paid updates. Again, this is not exclusive to Nintendo. Sony is doing this with their $10 update charges as well, but it's just kind of continuing that trend. Game keycards is something that I'm absolutely not a fan of. I will not be purchasing a single game keycard in my collection. All these games here are all physical games, and look, I'm going to be very, very selective about the Switch 2 titles I purchase. I think the only 2 games that I'm really looking at right now would be Donkey Kong Bonanza, and that really depends if the game reviews well. But I guess the absolute lock for me would be Metroid Prime 4. That's going to be a game I will pick up on day 1, unless something catastrophically goes wrong, but I don't think that's the case. There's also various misinformation and Nintendo walking things back. There's no VRR on TVs, for example. That is something that they kind of communicated incorrectly and they kind of walked back. So look, the launch itself has been a little bit all over the place, but Ultimately, I think Nintendo is very, very happy that their launch is finally here. We can finally get on with the business of selling the hardware and starting to announce new games. As for the launch lineup itself, while on paper it looks to be very strong, a lot of people are saying it's stronger than the Switch 2. I personally don't agree with that. I think the Switch launch was stronger, and it has to do with Breath of the Wild. That was the once-in-a-generational game. Mario Kart World, while it will sell extremely well, and a lot of people will be very happy with that, it's a racing game, and that means that there's going to be a subsection of people that won't play it as much as something else. And look, I don't mind the fact that Mario Kart World is a launch title, but I would rather see new experiences alongside a game like Mario Kart World, which gives consumers the choice to buy games that they want to play. And the spread of games, if you look at the launch lineup, it's very strong. But you also have to consider that many of these third-party games have already been out for a couple of years. Some of them have been around for a long, long time. And if you've already invested time and money and gameplay hours into these games, then it means you may actually sit out buying these games. Now, I know a lot of people are picking up Cyberpunk because, number one, it's a 64GB cartridge, and it does look great on the Switch 2. But, I mean, I personally am not a fan of Cyberpunk, so I'm definitely sitting that out. But let's look at a game like Elden Ring. That's coming to the Switch 2. I've played 200 hours of that game on the PlayStation 5. I'm not interested in playing that game on the Switch 2, which is not going to run anywhere near as good as the PlayStation 5 version, and it won't look as good. The important thing for me personally are new experiences on new hardware. And I think that the Switch 2 just doesn't have enough meat on the bone at launch. Now, obviously, that can and probably will be rectified when the system comes out, when the first Nintendo Direct shows up and we start to see announcements of new games. And again, this is not exclusively a Nintendo problem. If you look at the launch of the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series line of products, they went through similar growing pains as well. So ultimately, I think Nintendo is just going to be happy that the system is coming out, and they can start to get onto the business of selling hardware and showing us new products, new games. And I think everyone is just going to be very, very happy that the system is finally here. Now, later on this week, guys, I'm going to be doing a lot of coverage on the Nintendo Switch 2. There are more, traditional MVG videos that are in the works, but I'm going to be covering the aspects that we haven't really seen Nintendo talk about. The most interesting parts for me would be something like backward compatibility. I don't think it's a coincidence that Nintendo hasn't shown us anything backward compatibility related. And, we've seen a lot of the hardware, but they've stayed very, very quiet on that aspect. I'm not suggesting that the backward compatibility is not good. I think if you are going to launch a new product and you're going to have a backward compatibility layer, anything less than very high compatibility is not good enough. So I think Nintendo understands that, and it's probably one of the reasons why they're waiting up till the very last day to provide that update. But once again, we're not seeing that visibility into how the backward compatibility runs on the hardware, whether we're getting enhancements, out of the box for free, or the games just run as they do, or if they run worse. And look, ultimately, backward compatibility for me is one of the most interesting aspects of the hardware, because this is really the very first time Nintendo is offering backward compatibility without putting dedicated hardware on the motherboard itself. But I do think it's going to be a very good test. We're going to be definitely testing that out. The other aspect of the hardware that I want to see more of is the GameCube emulation, whether the emulation itself stacks up. Obviously, with the Nintendo 64 emulation on NSO, there was a lot of growing pains. I think it's in a better state these days. It's definitely not perfect. It's definitely a lot more improved, but we'll definitely keep an eye on that one as well. And of course, we're going to be doing a full teardown of the hardware and getting a close look at what's inside it, take a look at the new NVIDIA chip, as well as just seeing what the teardown is all about and if we can find any other interesting things as well. But hey, we're going to leave it here for today's episode. What do you think about the Nintendo Switch 2? Do you have a pre-order in? Tell me about your thoughts and opinions leading up to the launch of the hardware. I think most of us are probably just relieved that the system is just days away from coming out now, and we can just kind of get on with our lives, because man, this Switch 2 stuff has been around for years. So look, let's kind of get on with the business of enjoying new hardware, playing new games, having new experiences. I'll definitely be there making content as well. But for now, guys, we're going to leave it here. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this episode, please don't forget to leave me a thumbs up, leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments below, and we will catch you in the next episode. Bye for now.